All right, welcome back to the Copywriters Podcast with your host, the world's greatest copywriting coach, David Garfinkel. David, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Nathan. How are you?
I'm good, and I'm excited just by going over today's show notes. I can't wait to get into today's topic, so I'm stoked about what we got lined up for the listeners today.
Yes, as well you should be. So here's a question. What do the world's most experienced, successful copywriters really think? And what if I could get them all together in one room and ask them to share their best ideas and techniques on the specific copywriting topics they know the most about? If you've ever wondered those things, you're not alone. Our special guest today, Turk, wondered the same thing. And next week, he's going to give you an answer at no cost to you to hear what some of the world's top copywriters have to say, including David Deutsch, Dave D, and another David. I can't remember his name right now, plus many more. Jack's going to tell us all about it midway through the show today. You should know he has decades of experience writing for the big guys like Microsoft and Kodak, plus many smaller businesses, including dentists, attorneys, even magicians. And as the voice of Dan Kennedy at GKIC and of many other high-profile thought leaders, Jack's sales copy has generated millions upon millions of dollars. Plus, he's now known as the world's fastest copywriter. But we need to slow down for just a second so I can tell you this. Copy is powerful. You're responsible for how you use what you hear on this podcast, and most of the time, common sense is all you need. But if you make extreme claims or if you're writing copy for offers in highly regulated industries like health, finance, and business opportunity, you may want to get a legal review after you write and before you start using your copy. My larger clients do this all the time. So, Jack, welcome. Glad you're here.
Hey, David, it's just amazing to be here. Thank you so much. And I didn't realize I probably should have a disclaimer then, therefore, under world's fastest copywriter, just based on what you just said, because I don't know. I haven't really tested myself against every single other copywriter on the planet. So therefore, I'm already suspect. Okay, well, we'll just go with that.
Well, a copywriter with a conscience. I mean, this is great, rare. And you know, when we were talking earlier, actually before when you interviewed me for the Copywriting Summit, I asked you if you were familiar with Mel Martin, who is known as the world's slowest copywriter, worked for Boardroom, and I said, boy, I'd love to see you two in a room, be a fly on a wall. Anyway, how did you become allegedly the world's fastest copywriter?
Well, I've always been a fast writer. I kind of realized this when I worked at Microsoft many moons ago, and I was a manager. I was actually a writing manager, and I got hired as a writer, then became a writing manager. And we have to do assessments of how long it takes to do stuff. You plan out big projects, et cetera, et cetera. And in terms of analyzing how fast people, the average writer created at Microsoft is like about a page a day. That's what they estimated to do, like a technical documentation. Well, I averaged 10 pages a day. I was 10 times as fast as the average writer at Microsoft. And that kind of stuck in my head. So I've always been very fast. I have a lot of different techniques that allow me to be quick, but that's where I kind of realized it. And I kind of hung my hat on that moniker. My buddy Dave D said I should act. Well, I'm just going to be totally transparent. He just basically said, you should run with that, Jack, because you are the fastest copywriter I've ever seen. And I said, okay, let's go with that.
I have great respect for Dave D. And if he says it, I'll buy it. How's that?
Yeah. Well, and it's like, it's like a matter of just belief. I just truly believe that the faster you write, the better you write. And we gum up the works by slowing ourselves down.
Okay, I think that's fair. There's a certain amount of intuitive truth to that. When you're editing every word or when you're struggling or, agonizing over every word, It's not necessarily going to be better, but it is going to take a lot longer. Do you want to share just one of your techniques? I know you've got many, and we got so many other things, so much
Mhm.
more ground to cover, but one of your techniques for writing fast?
It boils down to, well, set deadlines, and not just like the big deadline. I got to get this letter done in a couple weeks, but set hardcore daily deadlines for what you want to have produced in maybe 2 hours, maybe an hour, maybe just 15 minutes, whatever. But set a clear goal for the writing you want for the a time frame and a deliverable at the end of it. So at the end of that time frame, you want to have that deliverable, that done. Whether it's a page, whether it's a call to action, whether it's an email, whatever. But be very rigorous about not approaching any writing without some kind of deadline.
That's great. Never heard that before. I mean, I've heard about deadlines before, but I love that in your method. You are recently fortunate to hear from, many of the world's greatest copywriters, and we will talk about Copywriting Summit in a minute or two. But the logical consequence of that would be you have an interesting 2023, 2024 view of the whole landscape of copywriting. And you've probably noticed, even if you're not actively involved in what new copywriters are doing or not doing today, what have you noticed that they should be doing that they're not doing?
I think talking to all these different people, a lot of our conversations were about clients and working with clients. And I think what came across most was it's not so much about um, the copy you write or the numbers you generate, etc. It's much more about the kind of person you are and the relationships you create with the people you work with. And
Mm-hmm.
that's over and over and over again. I mean, that's been my personal experience. And it's also so much the personal experience of the people who shared um, in the discussions I had, is just be a real person, be a genuine, decent human being, care about your clients, care about them in a, you know, in a real way. Be real, really care about them. Like, get that as human beings, as people, they have lives that matter, and that over and over and over again came through from the interaction I had with people, is how important that is. And it's not so cold. We think of business as cold and calculating, and it's all about relationships. It's so much about relationships, not only with your customers that you're writing to for sales letters, etc., but for the people who hire you. It's really about building a strong, concerned, caring relationship with them. And that, I think that's how I approached it. I've always tried to approach it, but it was affirming to hear so many other people, mention that very same thing.
That's interesting. I agree with you. Of course, a lot of copywriters are so introverted or shy, they're afraid to even get on the phone with anybody. And that's probably something everyone who has that problem should work on. I also remember this incredible Japanese book. It is translated in English. It's called The Courage Not to Be Liked, or The Courage to Be Not Liked. And one of the key things in that book, most people think the main fathers or foundation of Western psychology or psychotherapy are Freud or Jung. But there's a third one named Adler. And Adler said, your life, how you get along, it has nothing to do with your childhood or the unconscious or your relationship with your mother or your secret desire to kill your father or any of those things. It all has to do with the relationships right now that you have with other people. That's everything. And for some reason, that school of psychology never really got accepted into the mainstream. And it's really cool because what it says is lines up so perfectly with what you just said. And it's also common sense, and it's also exactly what I've found in my career as a copywriter and a coach and a content creator, author, etc. Nathan, what are you thinking?
I just wanted to add most of my best copy comes from clients that I've worked with for about 6 months plus. Usually the initial package does okay, especially if we've got a couple different variables to test. But having that relationship is what turns a one project job into an ongoing relationship. And without that relationship, you don't get to the 6-month mark where you really start knocking it out of the park for people. So I just co-sign on this 100%.
Yeah, very cool. All right. Well, I didn't think we were going to get into relationship counseling on this call, but what the heck? Follow it wherever it goes. Take it as
Yep.
it comes. So another question. You became Dan Kennedy's copywriter, which is like amazing to me, and I imagine to anyone who knows about Dan Kennedy and his whole world a few years ago. How did that happen, and what was that like for you?
It's a weird story. I'll be honest. I kind of came out of nowhere. I was like I mentioned, I was at Microsoft for many years, and I was a writer, and I did game design. I did project management. I had kind of a nice like flat line sort of career at Microsoft. I didn't really rise the corporate ladder. I just kind of bounced around, did a lot of different things, and it was fun. I got to work on great projects. But I always wanted to do my own thing. And on my 50th birthday, I left Microsoft to become a full-time magician. And that's where I learned how to write copy. Because I've always been a magician. I've always done magic tricks. Since I was a little kid, I've always been into magic. And I thought, I'm going to do this. So I started learning writing copy from Dave D, who's my he was my mentor, and he taught me so much.
He's a magician too, isn't he?
Exactly. So I bought Dave's course. I saw his sales letter, which was how to make $100,000 as a magician. I thought, well, that's interesting. Doesn't sound bad. So I got the free report, and which was a sales letter. And and then I bought the course, and I bought more stuff, and I went to his live event, and then and so that thus began a path of like really getting to know Dave and learning through him Dan Kennedy's direct response principles. And I basically learned how to write sales letters for myself, for my magic show business. And I got really, and by the time I left Microsoft, I had prepared for a couple of years, doing gigs and kind of working with Dave to update my copy. And I was pretty, I'm a good magician. I'm a good magician. I'm a pretty good magician. I was doing 200 to 300 shows a year. I don't know if I'm a 200 to 300 shows a year kind of magician, but I'm pretty good. Okay. But my copy was really good. I wrote a really good sales letter to birthday moms, because that's what most of the shows are. They're birthday moms. All right. And I kept doing that. And then people just, for whatever reason, found some people. My website got found by some guy, another magician who did financial stuff, said, hey, why don't you try writing some copy for me for this financial thing? And I did that for him. And that was kind of cool. And Dave started hiring me to do copy for him. So initially I was just sending all my money to Dave. And then eventually Dave started sending money back my way, to start writing for him. And I kept the relationship going. I kept doing projects with Dave. And what happened was I got good at writing copy. And when Dave got hired as VP of marketing at GKIC, Dan's company, they needed somebody to run the copy department. And Dave said, hey, give Jack a test, see how he does. I did a test on writing in Dan's voice, and they loved it, and they brought me on. And that's sort of how Robert Ringer talks about the leapfrog principle. That was my leapfrog. I'll admit I'd been working for a long time on it. I was ready, but that sort of it fell in my lap. I'll be honest, it kind of fell into my lap. It wasn't like I tried for it or anything. I actually wrestled with it. Do I really want to do a full-time? Because I left full-time employment at Microsoft to do freelancing and stuff. I kind of wrestled with it, but I thought, okay, this would be cool. This would be kind of a neat opportunity. And it was great. We had a team of a couple other writers that I managed, and we were a copy machine, because they were doing promotions, like hundreds and hundreds of promotions a year. I mean, I had to manage. I got really good at managing copy projects and keeping track of lot because we didn't just do like a letter. We did full blown. If you're going to do super conference, for example, that's 6-month campaign. That involves a lot of pieces of copy, a lot of different promotions, a lot of different variables that you got to track, et cetera, in terms of in terms of the copy itself, the technical production, all the other stuff associated with it. And I loved it. I mean, that was just a great experience um, overall for me. I enjoyed it immensely.
I imagine your background in Microsoft, having with all the metrics and setting time, measuring time, and probably you know managing a department and all of those things. That's unusual, right? Not a lot of people have that kind of experience, especially not a lot of copywriters. That must have really helped with this job.
Oh, oh yeah, it made all the difference in the world because I understand project management. I mean, I was trained in project management at Microsoft for managing software projects. And I ran software projects and I ran game development projects. And as well as content production projects, which are very similar to copy, because you're generating words, and files and training. I did the entire instructional design for Flight Sim 2000, which starts you off on a 182 all the way up to 737. So how you fly, start learning how to fly. So I got that background in instructional design too. So that helped, all that fed to being, I was very successful at that company.
It's very cool. All right, let's shift gears a little bit. You and I got in touch when you invited me to be a guest expert on Copywriting Summit, and I thank you again for that.
Thank
did you get that? Oh, you're welcome. How did you get the idea to do that? And this will be new to most of our listeners and viewers. So start it at square one. What is it?
Okay. The Copywriting Summit is a 4-day virtual event that will take place February 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th. I interviewed 25 different writers and marketers on various topics associated with copywriting. A number of different topics, great people. I had, I had you, David Deutsch, Marcella Allison, Dave D, Craig Simpson, Kevin Rogers, John Benson. Also, I got a guy to talk about storytelling I've known for a long time. He's got a little bit of notoriety, not necessarily in copy. Tim Allen of Home Improvement.
Oh, yeah, Tim Allen.
Yeah, Tim the Tool Man. Yeah, I've known Tim since actually I did comedy with Tim Allen back in college for the college radio station, and that's how I've known Tim for many, many, many years. And he graciously offered to allow me to interview him, and it was great. And so I got a lot of great names, a lot of people who've been around for a while, really understand different aspects of copywriting. And it just was a great experience just talking to you, David, and all the others. I learned so much.
Oh, thank you. I mean, so what's the span of topics? So this is all recorded, but it'll appear as live. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's all. What happens is, I think I've got it set up so like you get there's each interview is about an hour, 35 minutes to 30 minutes to an hour, and Brian Kurtz, etc. And they're released over. You get 7 speakers on the first day, 7 speakers second day, 7 speakers third day. I think 6 on the last. You get a chance to listen to all of them. That's it, and it's totally free. The topics range. Oh gosh, we talk about. Craig Simpson talked about lists, and Craig is an expert enough. He's in Planet Dan world. Craig is a master at lists, and if you want to know anything about lists, he's fantastic. I interviewed a guy. He's in the golf marketing space, and he knows offers. Andrew Wood is just. I worked with him on some projects from the golf marketing space and others, and he's brilliant in offers. He gave some incredible.
I gotta say, Andrew Wood is a really good name to have when you're in the golf space. Could be Wood or
I would think
Driver.
Jeremy Irons. I couldn't get him, but Andrew Wood was great. And Wedge Antilles, he didn't make it through the first Star Wars film, so he couldn't show up. But
Well, it sounds like a condensed, like a certificate program at a university. I mean, it sounds like a complete education in copywriting at a pretty advanced level.
oh yeah, I think there's so much. Dave talked about um, how to craft a one-to-many presentation, and you may not think that's something you want to do. Copywriters may not immediately think about that, but it's such a valuable skill to have and arrow in your toolkit. I mean, I kind of approached this. I wanted to provide copywriters with arrows for their toolkit because I think that's so valuable. Yeah, you can specialize. Maybe you're the VSL guy, okay, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with being the VSL guy. But in terms of my career, I found it extremely useful to be able to do a lot of different things, to write emails, to write long form sales letters, to do VSLs, to do webinars, to do all the whole, to create a campaign. I mean, all the stuff that is necessary. I thought it was just really important that you have at least some smattering of knowledge, and the more the better, in my opinion, on all these different elements.
Yeah. Besides Tim Allen, of course, and anybody that we might not expect to be in a copywriting summit, anyone with something really quirky um, or a specialty we might not have thought of. Any surprise? I guess you can't tell me if it's going to be a surprise, but you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Quirky? No, I think they're all pretty much in things that Dave talked about one to many presentations, which you may not think about that as a copywriter, but he talked and again how to craft it, how to deliver it, importance of like stage presentation. That was an element that I thought was really useful. I mean, because of so much of our jobs, okay, so we're at a typewriter. Okay, typewriter. Okay, you got the typewriter in front of you there and your icon there. But like, you're at the keyboard, but you have to be able to deliver a presentation. I think it's so valuable to have stage presence, to understand. I mean, I did lots of magic shows, so I'm very comfortable, on stage. But I don't think that's not a bad skill that any writer should be able to develop. It's not outside your abilities. I mean, you've got quality stage presence. You can tell. You've done 300 of these podcasts. You know what you're doing, in front of a crowd, in front of an audience.
No,
And that's so
you're right.
useful.
One of my biggest breakthroughs was when I launched my first high-end mass market within the copywriting world product at Armin Morin's big seminar. Was this 20 years ago, maybe? And yeah, I got up in front of a room and I mean, I sold 50 of them. It was called Copywriting Templates. I think they were the original copywriting templates. And, from there, then I did we'd call them podcasts today, but it was the webinar circuit, and
Hmm.
and I was bringing in a very nice monthly paycheck just from selling the product. It all started with a one to many presentation. I actually studied with a guy. I don't know if he's still around. His name is John Childers. He was a teacher of how to do those one to many platform sales presentations. I think he was the first person who bought it, which I certainly appreciated. He ran out of the. He was
Honored.
taking notes like crazy, and he ran out of the room. Uh, really, really primed the pump. But yeah, okay. Well, that's interesting. So, how much does this cost? How do people sign up?
It's actually free. Each day is free. There's all you got to do is go to the website and register, and you get links every day to the next set of videos. Again, each video is up for the videos are up for 24 hours, and then the next set of speakers, then the next set, then the next set. There is a VIP option where you can basically purchase recordings. So just in case you can't make a day or whatever, that's going to be available as well.
Okay, and we're going to put a special link in the show notes so people can sign up to it. Did you learn anything um, surprising? Learn anything new? I mean, you certainly have seen all sides of copywriting. Had seen it before you started this thing. Anything you want to share with us that you got out of it, or maybe the best reason someone should take this?
over and over was just impressed by the depth of knowledge that everybody had. And I kept, you know, I've started to go back through, and actually I am going to produce probably a secondary document based on all this, probably do a book out of it, just because there are just so many takeaways that were important. I mean, I just actually recently shared, I'm doing video, I'm actually sharing video clips of some of some moments I thought. And I'll just share one. I just shared one the other day from Dave, which he made the point about how it's really important to, we all talk about, we need to know the objections our prospect has before we start writing, if that's one of the steps you want to do. He talked about how in sharing your origin story, you can actually overcome objections in that. So use your origin story as a technique and a medium through which you address potential objections that someone would
Yeah,
have.
I saw that video snippet um, on LinkedIn. You put it up yesterday as we're recording this, and man, my head was spinning after that. I thought, wow, what a great idea. No wonder he's so
Yeah.
successful. But yeah, you talk about the depth of knowledge. I remember Dan way back in the day recommended a book about direct response marketing and copywriting called A Lifetime of Homework. Did you ever hear of that book? That's kind of what it is.
Well, that's, Dan is, if you want to talk about someone who has just set the bar so high, not just in his ability. I mean, he's such an amazing writer, and it was an honor to try to, write in his own voice, try to capture his voice. He was just amazing. But the depth of knowledge he has about business, about marketing, about human psychology, it's humbling, to be honest. It's humbling, but it's also inspiring. It's inspirational that his passion for this topic is just comes through. He just loves it. He immerses himself in it. That's what I thought. I was so honored to have this chance to do this event. The event basically came about because one of Dan's admonitions is for success: be somebody, be somewhere, do something. Those three: be somebody, be
Yep.
somewhere, do something. So I was a copywriter. I made it known I'm a copywriter. I went to an event by Perry Belcher on AI, which is a topic obviously we cover, and it's very great interest to copywriters. And I hung out in the watering hole after the event, and ran into a gentleman who is the co-producer of these events, George Shepard. Just happened to run into him there, and I mentioned I'm a copywriter. He said, "Oh, I'm doing a copywriting summit. Maybe we should talk." And so, okay, that's it. I thought he'd have me speak possibly. Instead, we worked out where I would be one of the co-sponsors and host it and do all the legwork and interviews. And I'll be honest, I wrestled with that idea, David. I wasn't sure it was something I wanted to do. And I thought, you know what? Why not me? Why not? Why not be somebody and do something?
And when you first reached out to me, I think you said George Shepard's platform allows 10,000 or 100,000 or something people to view at a time. Is that right?
That's that's what we're going. We don't know yet. As many people are going to try to get as. Typically, these get anywhere between 10,000 and 100,000 people. So now there's a lot of copywriters out there, and the more that hear about this, the more that, honestly, I think this is of huge value. Show up. There'll be something. Just your time will be well spent. If you get one nugget. I mean, I just gave you one little nugget that I thought was amazing. Imagine
I
basically
agree.
20 plus hours of that.
Wow. Cool. Nathan.
I'm seeing Dave D, David Deutsch, David Garfinkel, a lot of Daves going on. So for those 3Ds alone, I would think it would be worth the price of admission.
Yeah, which is free unless you actually want to get the recordings, but definitely worth the time.
Okay,
Yeah.
before we're out of here, Jack, where's the best place if people want to connect with you, maybe follow you on social media? Where are you most active?
I'm active on social media is not my thing, to be honest. I do a little bit. But I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. It's just Jack Turk on LinkedIn. You can find me there. I'm Jack Turk on Facebook. I think the show notes, I'll put in my email address and website and make sure they're in the show notes.
What is your website?
WriteKillerCopyFast.com.
Nice. All right. We will definitely have that in the show notes. We'll also have a link to this summit in the show notes as well. So on the rare occasion, we don't have the link right now as we're recording, but it will be in the show notes. To get that, you got to head over to copywriterspodcast.com, do a search for Jack Turk, and episode 353 will pop right up, and you can get the link there. While you're there, make sure that you subscribe to the podcast. And any final thoughts before we're out of here today?
I think I'm a big believer in exuberance. That if you're doing copywriting, and if you're not, and maybe whatever you do, whatever you choose to do, I think you get one go around. Do it. Live with exuberance. And really go all in. They asked Stevie Ray Vaughan how he played guitar so well, and he said, "I play flat out." Write copy flat out.
Great copywriting advice, great life advice as well. So thank you for coming on, David. Thank you for putting this interview together. I had a blast listening to it. I know the listeners did as well. And until next time, we will catch you later.
Catch you later.
Yep.